To legally transport placardable hazardous materials, you must have which endorsement on your CDL? H, Hazmat. The Hazmat endorsement ensures drivers are trained and certified for hazardous material transport. Next one. Hazardous materials regulations are contained in which title of the Code of Federal Regulations? Title 49. Title 49 covers regulations for transporting hazardous materials across the U.S. Here's the next. Shipping papers for hazmat must be kept within reach in the driver's compartment. The shipping papers must be easily accessible in case of inspection or emergency. On to the next. Before each trip, placards must be checked for correct type and legibility. A pre-trip check ensures that placards are visible, correct, and in good condition. Next question. Which placard is used for flammable liquids? Class 3, flammable liquids. This placard identifies materials that are flammable liquids with flash points below 60 degrees. Here's another. The required size for hazmat placards on highway vehicles is at least 10.75 inches square. This size ensures that placards are clearly visible from a distance. Next one. What information does the proper shipping name provide? Identity of the hazardous material. The proper shipping name provides the exact description of the material being transported. Let's move on. The Emergency Response Guidebook, ERG, is used to identify hazards and initial response actions. The ERG helps first responders safely manage hazardous materials incidents. Next, for a mixed load of flammable and corrosive liquids, you must placard for both classes or the more restrictive class. When different hazard classes are present, placards for the more hazardous material must be displayed. Next one. What color background does a corrosive placard have? White with black pictogram. The corrosive placard shows a white background and a black symbol of a test tube pouring onto a hand in metal. Here's another. Which hazard class covers oxidizers? Class 5.1 oxidizers. Class 5.1 support combustion and increase the risk of fire. Let's keep going. Dangerous when wet placards. Class 4.3 are used for materials that react with water to release flammable gas. Class 4.3 placards are used to identify materials that react dangerously with water. Next one, poison inhalation hazard placards belong to Division 6.1. This division covers toxic materials that can be harmful if inhaled. On to the next. When must you remove or cover placards on an empty trailer? Immediately after unloading, placards should be covered or removed as soon as the trailer is empty to avoid confusion. Here's another. Loading incompatible materials together can cause violent reaction or fire. Incompatible materials can lead to dangerous reactions when mixed together. Next one. How many identical placards are required on a placarded trailer? 4. Front, rear, both sides. Placards must be displayed on the front, rear, and both sides of the trailer for visibility. Let's move on. Which packing group indicates high danger? PG1. Packing Group 1 indicates materials that pose a high level of danger. On to the next. Who is responsible for classifying and naming hazardous materials on shipping papers? The shipper. The shipper is responsible for providing the correct classification and name of the material. Next, when you suspect a leak in your load, you should first consult the ERG for emergency actions. The Emergency Response Guidebook provides instructions on how to respond to leaks safely. Next question. During a hazmat incident, traffic should be diverted at least how far from the spill, as specified in the ERG. The ERG will guide the required distance based on the type of material involved. Here's another. Which placard number is assigned to corrosives? 8. The number 8 on placards designates corrosive materials. Next, placard vehicles must stop at railroad crossings if carrying any placardable hazmat. All vehicles carrying placardable hazardous materials must stop at railroad crossings. Here's the next. A driver must undergo a background check by TSA. The Transportation Security Administration conducts background checks for hazmat endorsements. Let's move on. Hazmat endorsements require renewal every 5 years. Hazmat endorsements need to be renewed every 5 years to ensure ongoing compliance. On to the next. Security plans for high-risk materials must be kept on file with the carrier. The carrier is responsible for maintaining security plans for high-risk materials. Next, hazardous materials training must be repeated at least every 2 years. Hazmat drivers must undergo training every 2 years to stay current with regulations. Here's another. Radioactive placards fall under Class 7. Class 7 placards are used for materials that are radioactive. On to the next. When could dummy placards be used? Never dummy placards, which do not accurately represent hazardous materials, should never be used on public highways. Next, a white-red-white biohazard placard is used for infectious substances. This placard is used for materials that may pose biological health risks. Next question. If shipping papers conflict with a placard, the driver must refuse the shipment until corrected. Discrepancies between shipping papers and placards must be resolved before moving the shipment. Let's keep going. A placard with a skull and crossbones indicates toxic substances. This placard warns of materials that can cause harm through ingestion, inhalation, or skin contact. On to the next. Drivers must carry what fire extinguisher rating? 5BC. A fire extinguisher with a 5BC rating is required for transporting hazardous materials. Next, when transporting bulk anhydrous ammonia, the shipping name must include UN 1005. UN 1005 is the proper shipping name for anhydrous ammonia. Here's another. Hazard labels must be how large on packages, at least 4 inches square. Hazard labels must be at least 4 inches square to ensure visibility. Let's move on. Hazardous materials must be stowed how during transport? Away from passengers in secured compartments. Hazmat materials must be stored safely away from passengers and in secured areas of the vehicle. On to the next. What is the one-call number for hazmat emergencies? 1-800-424-8802. Chemtrek provides emergency response support for hazmat incidents. Next one. Bulk packaging must have what warning? Orientation arrows if required. Orientation arrows indicate the correct positioning of bulk packages during transport. Let's continue. If a leak occurs at a customer site, the driver must first clear the area and notify emergency responders. The driver must prioritize safety and inform emergency services immediately. Here's another. Hazmat shipping papers must include what phone number? 24-hour emergency contact. The 24-hour emergency contact provides assistance in case of a hazmat incident. Next one. What is the minimum bond strength for hazmat shipping labels? Resistant to water, grease, and tearing. Hazmat shipping labels must be durable enough to withstand handling and environmental conditions. On to the next. Which class covers organic peroxides? Class 5.2 organic peroxides, which are highly reactive, are classified under Class 5.2. Here's another. You must wear PPE as specified on the Safety Data Sheet, SDS. The SDS provides instructions on the necessary personal protective equipment, PPE. Next one. When covering trailer placards after unloading, you may use blank panels or covers. This helps ensure that the placards are concealed after the hazardous material is removed. Next, for small quantity exemptions, placarding is not required. Small quantities of hazardous materials may be exempt from placarding requirements. Here's another. What defines a bulk packaging? Over 450 liters, 119 gallons capacity. A bulk packaging has a capacity greater than 450 liters or 119 gallons. Onwards, shipping papers for hazard zone AB gases must include hazard zone designation. The hazard zone designation indicates the level of danger posed by certain gases. Okay, next one. During a pre-trip, you must inspect placards, labels, and package integrity. A pre-trip inspection ensures all safety signs and packaging are intact before departure.